What did you say? She thundered, her voice shaking with fury. You are hungry? After wasting my entire life, my youth and my dreams, you still have the mouth to say you are hungry. Where do you want the food to come from? Tell me, where? You should have died long ago. Die and free me already, fool! Die! Once upon a time, in the quiet village of Umuaka, there lived a woman named Ojugo. She was a poor widow, gentle, hardworking and kind. Her hands were always busy, her feet never tired, and her heart was filled with only one dream: to give her daughter a better life than she ever had. Her only child and daughter, Nkoli, was her pride and joy. Nkoli was a very beautiful girl. Even though they were poor, her skin glowed like the morning sun, her eyes bright like the river stones, and her laughter could melt even the hardest heart. She was not only beautiful, she was also very brilliant. Everyone in the village knew that and sang her praise. From the first day she entered the village school, she shone bright like the stars. The teachers spoke her name with pride. That's Ojugo's daughter, they would say. Her head is brighter than the chief's lantern. I'm sure she would have a bright future. And indeed, it was true. Nkoli came first in all her exams, recited her lessons with confidence, and often spoke about her big dream: to become a doctor. Her mother Ojugo would smile and say, "My daughter, you will be more than a doctor. You will be light to this family. You will wipe away the tears in my eyes." Oh, Ojugo loved her daughter with every drop of blood in her body. She was ready to walk through fire for her, and there was nothing she didn't do to give her daughter that life she dreamed of. She sold firewood at the market, fetched water for people, washed clothes for neighbors, and even worked on other people's farm under the hot sun. Sometimes she would hawk if necessary, all so she could buy Nkoli books and pay her school fees. She did anything and everything to make her daughter happy. Sometimes, when there was little food in the house and hunger pressed her hard, she would hide her empty stomach behind a smile. "Eat, my daughter," she would say, pushing her only plate of food towards Nkoli. "I have already eaten and I'm full." But her stomach would grumble in the darkness, begging for even a grain of rice. She sacrificed everything to make sure her only child had the best of everything. The villagers would often whisper they had never seen anything like that before. Ojugo's love for her daughter is deeper than the village stream, they would say. Everything seemed to be going well for both mother and daughter, and their little hut was filled with laughter. As the years passed, Nkoli grew older, wiser, and even more beautiful. Her teachers couldn't be more proud of her. They would always look at her and say she was destined for greatness. And Ojugo's heart swelled with hope whenever people complimented her about her daughter in the market. Every evening, as she prepared dinner happily with Nkoli, she would smile as her daughter chatted happily about how she would build one of the biggest hospitals in the village. Ojugo would dream of the day her daughter would wear a white doctor's coat and people would call her Mama Doctor. But then, life, cruel and unpredictable, struck its heavy blow. It began slowly. One morning, Ojugo had woken up with a cough, small, harmless, ordinary, but laughed it off. "Ah, it's nothing, just the harmattan dust," she said. "It will soon go." But no, the cough refused to go. It grew louder, deeper, until it shook her whole body. Some nights, she coughed till tears rolled down her cheeks. Nkoli would jump up from sleep, rush to her side, and hold her back as she struggled for breath. "Mama, please, let's go to the village herbalist," she begged. "It's just old age, my child," Ojugo whispered, forcing a smile. "Don't waste money on me. Let's save it for your books." But the cough grew worse. Then came fever, weakness, and body pains. Her legs began to shake when she stood. Her voice lost its strength. She couldn't walk long distances anymore. Her once strong body became thin like broomsticks. Nkoli grew worried, terribly worried. She would cry quietly outside their huts when her mother wasn't looking. She stopped playing with friends and started doing everything at home. She fetched water, cooked, swept, and even carried her mother's goods to the market on her head. "Mama, you will be fine," she would say softly, bathing her mother's body with warm water. "Don't cry, my child," Ojugo would reply. "It's only the wind passing through old bones. I will be fine." But both of them knew this was no ordinary sickness. When Ojugo realized that this was no longer a child's play, she began visiting native healers. They gave her herbs to boil, leaves to drink, and roots to chew. At first, the medicines seemed to help, but after a few days, she would grow weaker again. Nkoli followed her everywhere, carrying water and firewood for the herbalist, sitting by her mother's side as she swallowed bitter mixtures. They spent every penny they had, first on herbs, then on tablets from the chemist, then on injections from a traveling nurse. But nothing worked. Little by little, their small savings disappeared. Ojugo's basket at the market became emptier. Her stall grew quiet. People who once bought her palm oil began to look at her with pity. "Ojugo, rest," they would say. "Don't kill yourself." "How can I rest when my daughter still needs me?" she would reply with tears in her eyes. Nkoli stopped going to school regularly. She had to stay at home to take care of her mother. Her teachers visited once and found Ojugo lying weakly on the mat. They left sorrowful, whispering prayers for her recovery. At night, Nkoli would sit by her mother's side, fanning her gently. Sometimes, Ojugo would wake up gasping for air and Nkoli would hold her hands, crying, "Please, don't leave me, Mama. Mama, please." "Shh," Ojugo would whisper, forcing her lips to curve into a smile. "I'm not going anywhere until I see you become a great doctor." But deep down, even as she said those words, she feared that she couldn't keep that promise. Weeks turned into months. Yet the sickness refused to leave. At this point, all their money was gone. The house became emptier. First, they sold their goods, then their farm tools, then their last wrapper. Just anything they could sell to save a life. One morning, Nkoli opened the calabash where they kept their coins and it was completely empty. She ran to her mother's bedside. "Mama, we have nothing left." Ojugo turned her face to the wall as silent tears rolled down her cheeks. For the first time, Nkoli saw real fear in her mother's eyes. The strong woman, who once stood like an iroko tree, now looked like a dry leaf, waiting for the wind. That evening, Ojugo tried to cook but fainted before she could lift the pot. Nkoli screamed until neighbors rushed in to help. They poured water on Ojugo's face, fanned her and laid her back on her mat. "This woman needs rest," Mama Nena said. "She has burnt her candle from both ends." Nkoli knelt beside her mother crying, "Mama, please don't die. You can't die. Who will I have?" From that night, everything changed. Even Nkoli changed. She became quieter, more thoughtful, and very afraid. She prayed every night that her mother's health would return, but each morning, the cough and weakness grew worse. The proud laughter that once filled their small huts was replaced by silence and sighs. Their meals grew smaller, their clothes older, their smiles weaker. And in that tiny mud hut in Umuaka, a young girl watched helplessly as the mother who gave her life slowly withered before her eyes like a flower starved of rain. The days that followed were not kind to Nkoli and her mother. Everything they had was gone, and even the little food left in the house finished like morning dew under the sun. The herbs that once gave Ojugo small strength stopped working entirely, and the sickness was eating deeper into her body. Her cough grew louder, her eyes sank, her voice trembled like wind through dry leaves. Each day she grew weaker, and Nkoli's heart broke a little more. Every evening, after struggling through the day, Ojugo would call Nkoli close, touch her cheek gently, and whisper the same painful words, "My daughter, I didn't see this coming. I had big plans for you. I wanted you to go to the university. I wanted you to become a great doctor, but look at me now." Then her eyes would fill with tears. Nkoli would console her mother. "She will get better soon. You just need rest." But they both knew the truth. Rest was not what she needed. She needed money, medicine, food, hope. One night, after Ojugo had fallen asleep, Nkoli sat by the flickering clay lamp, staring at her mother's frail body. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She thought about the big dreams she once had. The white doctor's coat, the hospital, the smiling patients. All of it now seemed like a faraway story. She clenched her fists. "I can't just sit here and watch her die," she whispered to herself. "If school must stop for now, then let it stop. I will find something to do. I will take care of her first, and when she gets better, I will continue my education." It was a brave thought for a young girl. The next morning, before the sun fully rose, Nkoli took her small basket, walked around the village, filled it with oranges and bananas, and went to the market square. She stood at the roadside, calling out in a tired but hopeful voice, "Sweet oranges, ripe bananas, come and buy yo!" The villagers pitied her. "Is that not Ojugo's daughter?" they whispered. "Ah, she has started hawking. Hey, the gods should help that family. I heard her mother is very sick." Some bought her fruits out of sympathy. Some gave her small change without taking anything. And every evening, Nkoli would return home sweaty, dusty and tired, but with a small smile on her face. She would cook porridge for her mother, feed her patiently, then wash her face and body before helping her lie down. "Eat small, Mama," she would say. "I made it with pepper, just the way you like it." "Thank you, my child," Ojugo would whisper weakly. "You're my heartbeat, and I hope the gods heals me." But even as months passed and Nkoli tried, things did not improve. Ojugo's sickness grew worse with each passing day. Her bones became sharp under her skin, and her cough echoed through the quiet night like a drum of sorrow. Sometimes, Nkoli would wake in the middle of the night to find her mother staring at her with watery eyes. "Mama, why are you not sleeping?" she would ask. "I'm just watching you, my child," Ojugo would reply. "You've grown so thin. I wish I could take away your pain. I wish I could give you the life you deserve. Then she would sigh deeply. I didn't see this coming, Uncle. I didn't. I had big dreams for you, but life has cheated me. Nkoli would hold her hand tightly and say, Don't talk like that, Mama. You will get better soon. You will see me in that doctor's coat. But even as she said it, tears would roll down her own cheeks, because she didn't even know if she should believe her own words. She was doing all she could. She had even started working for people aside from selling fruits just to earn more money. But every medicine they bought ended up useless. Every single remedy the native doctor gave turned into disappointment. And soon, no amount of money Nkoli made from hawking fruits and other stuff could buy food and drugs together. Some days they ate, some days they didn't. The neighbors pitied them. Sometimes Mama Nenna would bring soup or give Nkoli a few tubers of yam. But we all know that even kindness grows thin when poverty stays too long. Nkoli switched from the vibrant young maiden with a shiny future that the entire village knew to a quiet and withdrawn maiden. She rarely smiled anymore. Her eyes looked older than her age. She no longer had hopes of going back to school, and tears stung her eyes when she saw her classmates returning from school, waving their books in excitement. Some would even laugh and point fingers at her when they passed. It broke her heart. No, it shattered her heart to pieces each time. Every evening, she would sit outside their huts watching the sun sink behind the hills, wondering when or if things would ever get better. She prayed every night, but heaven seemed silent. Inside the hut, Ojugo lay on her mat staring weakly at the ceiling. She didn't seem to be getting better. Even her voice was faint like a whisper in the wind. Sometimes, she tried to hide her tears, but Nkoli would see them anyway. Days turned into weeks. Weeks crawled into several months. And in the small silent hut of Umuaka, hope grew thin like thread stretched too far. Nkoli had turned into someone no one could easily recognize again. Her bright eyes were now dull from tears and hunger. Her once plump cheeks had fallen in. Every morning she woke to the sound of her mother coughing, a dry, painful cough that broke her heart. There was no money for medicine, no money for food, not even enough for oil to light their clay lamp at night. And no matter how hard she tried, it was never just enough. The neighbors had grown tired of helping. Everyone had their own troubles. And so each day, she went out to hawk fruits with a heart full of sorrow. And each evening, she returned home with nothing but dust on her feet and disappointment in her eyes. One hot afternoon, Nkoli trudged along the dusty road from the market. Her basket was almost empty, but not from sales. In fact, she hadn't made a single sale that day. The fruits had gone bad under the sun. Sweat drenched her face as tears threatened to spill. Her wrapper was dusty, her feet ached. She walked past a group of village maidens standing under the mango tree, their laughter floating like cruel music in the air. They were all dressed in fine clothes, their hair freshly braided, their wrists glittering with beads. As soon as they saw her, they began to whisper and giggle. See Nkoli the bookworm, now Nkoli the school dropout, one said loudly, her eyes glinting with mischief. Dr. Nkoli the fruit seller, another mocked, clapping her hands. So, this is what she meant when she said she would heal the world, a third added with a smirk. Maybe she's now healing oranges. At least, our teachers have allowed our ears rest. Every day, Nkoli this, Nkoli that. Ha! May life not happen to you. How the mighty has fallen. The girls burst into laughter, their voices sharp like stones. Nkoli stopped, frozen for a moment. The words hit her chest like arrows. Her throat tightened. She looked down at her basket, then at her dusty feet, her vision blurred with tears. She wanted to say something, anything, but her voice failed her. So she just walked on, her head bowed, her heart heavy. As she passed them, one of the maidens called out again, "Please tell your mother to teach you how to be poor and proud." They laughed louder. Nkoli didn't look back. She kept walking until she was far enough to cry freely. She sat by the roadside under a small tree, dropped her basket and covered her face with both hands. The tears came hot and fast. "Why me?" she cried softly. "Why must life shame me like this? What is my offense? What did I do?" Her sobs were heavy, the heart-wrecking kind, and it mingled with the sound of evening crickets. When she finally stood up, her heart was different. Something inside her had cracked, a quiet, dangerous crack that no one could see. Pain, frustration, anger. One afternoon, after returning from the market with almost no sales again, Nkoli dropped her basket and sat outside the hut staring into space. Her stomach rumbled, her body ached, her mind was tired. In her mind, darkness loomed. It was clouded with anger, grave anger. Not just at sickness, but at life in its entirety, at the world, at the gods, and at her mother. "Why, Mama?" she whispered under her breath. "Why couldn't you give me a better life? Why did you decide to get sick and take my entire life and dreams away? Why must I suffer like this? Why me? What did I do to you, Mama?" She bit her lip as hot tears rolled down her cheeks. Bitterness had already planted its seed. That night, when Ojugo called for her, she answered coldly. When she coughed for water, Nkoli gave it to her reluctantly. The love was still there, but it was drowning under frustration, hunger, and despair. And Ojugo noticed it. She saw how her daughter's eyes had changed, how the gentleness in them was slowly being replaced by anger. It broke her heart, but she understood. One evening, she reached out and touched Nkoli's hand. "My daughter, don't let what is happening now make you bitter. Pain passes, but the heart remembers what we feed it. Please, do not hate me. It's not my fault. I wish there was something I could do to help this situation." Nkoli looked at her mother, tears in her eyes, but she said nothing. She only turned her face away. Her heart was heavy with something she couldn't find the right words to express. Years passed, and the days crawled like wounded snails. The small hut in Umuaka only grew quieter, lonelier, and older. Nkoli was no longer the young, cheerful girl with dreams of becoming a doctor. She had grown into a full-blown maiden. Her laughter had vanished entirely, her eyes were cold, and her heart was full of anger. Her classmates had all moved on. They were done with secondary school. Some were now in the city, studying in the university. Others had married. Some had become village teachers or traders. But Nkoli, Ojugo's only child, was still in the same village, still struggling, still poor, still surrounded by pain. The years of suffering without results, the years of working like a slave without reward, the years of watching her dreams die like dying firewood. All these years had changed her. They had built a thick wall around her heart, a wall of anger and deep resentment. They had turned her into a bitter woman, one who no longer saw her mother as a blessing, but as a curse. She now hated her own mother with passion, the woman who had stolen her life from her. Every time Nkoli looked at her mother lying weakly on the mat, anger filled her chest. "Because of you," she would mutter under her breath, "I am still here. Because of you, I lost everything." She no longer cared who heard her. Even the neighbors avoided their compound. No one wanted to hear Nkoli shouting at her mother anymore. Ojugo, frail and dying slowly, endured her daughter's harsh words in silence. Sometimes she wept quietly into her wrapper, whispering words of prayers only heaven could hear. "Forgive me, Jim. She does not know what she is doing." But the pain of her child's cruelty cut deeper than any sickness. One scorching afternoon, Nkoli returned home from a long day of labor. She had spent the whole day weeding a rich man's farm. Her palms were blistered, her stomach empty, her entire body aching. And when the time came for payment, the man waved her off with a careless hand. "Come tomorrow," he said. "I don't have money now." Nkoli's mouth fell open in disbelief. Tomorrow, after all her sweat and suffering, after crawling on her knees in the sun with an empty belly, she had nothing left on her. She walked home fuming, her heart burning with rage. Each step she took sent anger rising higher in her chest. As she neared the hut, she heard her mother's weak voice. "Nkoli, Nkoli, my child, is that you? I am hungry." Nkoli froze. Those words, "I am hungry," felt like salt on an open wound. She had endured this nonsense for way too long. She turned sharply, her eyes blazing. As she dashed into the hut, grabbed the long cane leaning against the wall and stomped back to where her mother lay. "What did you say?" she thundered, her voice shaking with fury. "You are hungry? After wasting my entire life, my youth and my dreams, you still have the mouth to say you are hungry? Where do you want the food to come from? Tell me, where?" Ojugo trembled, her frail body shaking. "Nkoli, please, I haven't eaten since yesterday," she said softly. But before she could finish, weep. The cane landed on her back. "You witch!" Nkoli screamed. "You evil woman! You ruined me! You ruined my life!" Again and again, the cane struck her mother's back until her cries filled the small compound. Ojugo's tears mixed with dust. She raised her shaking hands. "Nkoli, stop! My child, stop!" But Nkoli's eyes were wild, red, and full of years of bottled pain. She didn't stop until her arms grew tired. When she finally dropped the cane, her mother lay sobbing quietly, her breath trembling. Nkoli stormed out of the hut, shouting as she went, "You should have died long ago. Die and free me already, fool! Die!" The wind carried her words through the village. A few neighbors who heard them shook their heads sadly. Mama Nena murmured. "This is not anger anymore. This is the cause of pain repeating itself." But it didn't stop there. The next week, another scene unfolded, crueler than the first. Ojugo had tried to sweep the compound with her weak hands. In the process, she knocked over the pot of soup Nkoli had cooked with her last money. The hot soup spilled into the sand, wasted. When Nkoli returned and saw the empty pot lying in the sand, her voice tore through the air like thunder. "What happened here?" she shouted. Ojugo began to explain, her voice trembling. It was a mistake. The broom slipped from my hand. Mistake, Nkoli barked. "You mean a mistake like you? You are cursed, Mama. Mama, you are cursed. I said it. You are cursed. What wrong have I done to you? Why can't you even let me eat in peace?" Before Ojigo could move, Nkoli pushed her roughly aside. The frail woman fell, hitting her elbow against the wall. She groaned in pain. Nkoli didn't even help her up. She stood there, breathing heavily as she glared at her. "Everything you touch turns to sorrow," she hissed. "Maybe the day you die, peace will finally enter this house." Then she turned and walked away, leaving her mother lying in the dust, crying softly. That night, Ojigo lay awake staring into the darkness. Her heart was broken. Her only child, the daughter she once carried on her back through rain and sun, now treated her like a piece of rag. Each time Nkoli cursed her, her heart bled. Each time she raised her voice, Ojigo prayed for death. "Chim," she whispered, "take me. My body is tired, my soul is tired, let me rest. I don't want to curse my daughter, my only child. Please forgive her. Don't let her die in this hatred. Oh, death, take me." But death refused to come. People began to talk. They whispered at the stream, at the markets, even by the moonlight fires. How can Nkoli treat her mother like that? The gods will not overlook it though. Something must have tied their bloodline to sorrow. But Nkoli didn't care anymore. She had grown deaf to advice, blind to pity. Her heart was heavy with anger, her mind filled with resentment. She walked like a slave, ate like a beggar, and slept like someone carrying a curse. And through it all, her mother Ojigo withered away like a forgotten leaf in Harmattan. Years passed. The Harmattan wind had returned to Umuaka, dry, dusty, and stubborn. It planted the trees white and cracked the lips of the villagers. The earth was thirsty, the air rough, and life in Ojigo's compound was still the same, hard and bitter. Nkoli had grown lean from work and worry. Her back was bent from weeding people's farms. Her hands calloused, her heart full of unspoken pain and anger. She would never see her smile, and she no longer cared about her looks. Life had beaten beauty out of her. But one afternoon, something happened. Nkoli was returning from the farm that day, her hoe on her shoulder, her wrapper wet with sweat. The sun was hot, and the road ahead was quiet. She walked slowly, thinking about how miserable her life had become, when suddenly she heard the sound of a car engine behind her. She turned. A shiny black car was parked by the roadside, its tires coated with red dust. A tall, handsome man in a fine attire stepped out, looking confused. "Good afternoon," he said politely. "Please, young woman, can you help me? I think I've missed my way." Nkoli blinked, surprised. It wasn't every day a car stopped in Umuaka. She stepped closer, her voice calm and respectful. "Good afternoon, sir. Where are you heading?" "I'm looking for Chief Madu's compound," the man replied, scratching his head. I came to visit my friend, but I think I took the wrong turn." Nkoli smiled faintly. Chief Madu's house is not too far from here. You went too far east. Turn back and follow the narrow road that passes that old mango tree. His compound is the second after the stream." The man nodded, impressed. "Thank you very much. You saved me." He stared at her a moment longer, at the tired but beautiful maiden before him. Her face was plain, her wrapper faded, but there was something about her voice, something gentle and soft. "What's your name?" he almost asked, but he didn't. Instead, he smiled nervously and said, "Thank you again," before he drove off. Nkoli watched as the car disappeared into the silence. She shook her head, picked up her hoe, and continued walking. But the man, Osondu, could not forget her. Osondu was a successful young man from the city, a businessman with a good heart and a curious mind. He had only come to Umuaka to visit his old friend Mali. From the moment he met Nkoli, his thoughts refused to rest. He told Mali about her that same evening. "I met this girl on the road today," he said, smiling as he stirred his drink. "She's beautiful, not the painted kind of beauty we see in the city, but quiet and natural. She helped me find your house. I wanted to ask her name, but somehow I just couldn't." Mali laughed. "Ah, my friend, Umuaka is full of pretty maidens. Maybe you'll meet her again." But Asando didn't think it was ordinary. He couldn't shake the image of that dusty maiden from his head. Her soft voice, her bright eyes, her calmness. Days passed. He returned to the city, but she haunted his thoughts like a melody he couldn't stop humming. Months later, Asando returned to Umuaka again, this time for his friend's traditional marriage. The market was alive that day. Voices calling, traders bargaining, women laughing, children running around with roasted corn. He was just walking through the market, looking around and smiling at the lively noise, when his eyes caught something. No, someone. There she was, Nkoli, standing behind a tray of fruits, her skin glowing under the sun, her wrapper neat though old. She was arranging her oranges, unaware that fate was calling. Osando's heart skipped. He stood still, watching her for a while, before he finally gathered courage and approached. "Good afternoon," he greeted. Nkoli looked up, startled, and then smiled faintly. "Good afternoon, sir." He smiled back. "I don't know if you remember me. I was the man who lost his way some months ago." Her eyes widened slightly, and then she nodded. "Ah, yes, I remember, the man looking for Chief Madu's house." "Yes," he said, laughing softly. "I never forgot that day." That was how it began. With a simple laugh and a long conversation under the mango tree by the market entrance. They talked, they laughed, and before long the friendship grew into something stronger. Asando began visiting often. He bought fruits only from her stall. He offered to help her start a small business, but she refused shyly. Slowly his visits became the highlight of her weeks. For the first time in years, Nkoli smiled again. She laughed again. She felt seen, cherished, even loved. One evening, as they sat by the hills watching the sunset, Asando turned to her. "Nkoli," he said softly, "can you tell me about your family?" Nkoli froze. Her mind went blank. She thought of her mother lying weak on that mat, the woman she had called a witch, the woman she now avoided completely, the woman who stole her entire life from her. Her lips trembled. I don't have anyone," she lied quietly. "I'm an orphan. My parents died long ago." Asando's face softened with sympathy. "I'm so sorry." Nkoli looked away, her heart beating fast. She hated the lie, but she told herself it was necessary. What man would want a woman with a mad, sick mother who had nothing but carried curse? From that day, she never mentioned Ojugo again. Months passed, and their love grew stronger. He would travel to the city and return once in a while to see her. One evening, he visited the village, and as he sat on the hills catching up, suddenly, he went on his knee. "Nkoli," he said, holding her hand, "I can't stop thinking of you, and seeing you just once in a while is not enough for me. I want you by my side. I want to see you every day. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes. "Yes," she whispered as she wrapped her arms around him. She had dreamt of this freedom for a long time. It was such a joyful moment. As they sat back on the hills talking about the marriage rites, Nkoli held his hands, looking into his eyes. "Osundu," she whispered, "this may sound weird, but I don't want anything traditional. I have no family here. I just want a white wedding in the city. No village, no ceremonies, no rites. All I desire is to be with you." Osundu thought for a while and nodded gently. "If that's what you want, my love, then so be it." And that was how it happened. Nkoli packed her few belongings and followed Osundu to the city without a word to her mother. No goodbye, no farewell. Ojugo just woke up the next morning to find her daughter's mat empty. She waited by the door all day, whispering her name, but no one answered. She didn't know that her daughter was already far away, sitting beside a wealthy man dressed in fine clothes, smiling for the first time in years, believing her life of suffering was finally over. In the city, life smiled on Nkoli like the morning sun. Gone were the days of dusty roads and torn wrappers. Gone were the nights of hunger and tears. Nkoli had transformed from a poor, struggling village girl into a thick madam whose beauty shone brighter than her gold necklace. Her husband Osundu loved her with all his heart. He treated her like a queen, the very air he breathed. He would say proudly to anyone who cared to listen, "My wife is my blessing from heaven." And truly she was blessed. She wore the finest clothes, drove a shiny car, and dined in beautiful places. Osundu opened a big boutique for her, Nkoli's palace of fashion, filled with imported wares and expensive perfumes. Best is, if you saw Nkoli now, you would never believe she once hawked fruits along the streets of the village. Her skin glowed, her laughter returned, her steps danced to the rhythm of comfort. People who saw her admired her grace and beauty. Some even envied her. "Ah, this woman is enjoying," they would say. "Her husband must have money like a river." Life was sweet, too sweet. So sweet that she forgot the taste of tears. But far away in Umuaka, another story was unfolding. A story of pain, loneliness, and silent cries. Old Ojugo still lived in that same mud hut, alone and forgotten. Her body was weak. Her sight was failing, and her heart was heavy with grief. She didn't know where her daughter was. She didn't know if she was alive or dead. All she knew was that Nkoli had left and never looked back. Every evening, she sat outside her hut, gazing at the path her daughter once walked, whispering her name to the wind. "Nkoli, my child, where are you?" Sometimes she held her chest and wept until her body shook. "No, no, Nkoli," she would whisper between sobs. "You abandoned me. But I won't curse you. You broke my heart, but I won't curse you. May the gods not let my tears destroy you." Her neighbors often heard her crying at night. They pitied her, but could do little to help. Among them was a young maiden named Adaku, who lived nearby. Adaku's heart was soft, and she couldn't bear to see the old woman suffer. From time to time, she brought her small bowls of food, firewood or herbs. "Mama, please, eat small," she would say gently. "Thank you, my child," Ojugo would whisper, her eyes full of tears. "May your own children never forget you." But as soon as Adaku left, Ojugo would break down again, her frail body trembling. The loneliness was too much, the silence too loud, and the pain too deep. Meanwhile, in the city, Nkoli's life glittered brighter each day and her heart grew colder. She never spoke of her mother. To anyone who asked, she told the same lie without blinking. "I am an orphan. My parents died when I was young." Osundu believed her completely. He even wept one day saying, My poor Nkoli, you suffered too much, but you will never suffer again, I promise. And he kept his promise. He gave her everything: love, luxury, peace. But even with all that comfort, Nkoli's heart was not at peace. Sometimes, when she saw an old woman begging by the roadside, something inside her would twist painfully. She would look away quickly and say in her heart, no, my mother was bad luck. She would have ruined this happiness if I let her in. In her mind, Ojugo no longer existed. She convinced herself that she had no mother, no past, no pain. And so she built walls around her heart, walls that even love could not climb. Years flew by. And back in Umuaka, Ojugo's health grew worse. Her legs could no longer carry her cough returned harsher than before. Adaku continued to help, but she knew the old woman's days were numbered. One evening, as the sky darkened and the wind began to blow softly through the trees, Ojugo lay on her mat holding her chest. Nkoli, she whispered weakly, my child, I wish to see your face one last time, even if it's from afar. Her voice broke as tears rolled down her cheeks. I don't want to die like this, she cried softly. I need to tell you the truth. But Nkoli was far away, living in a mansion surrounded by beauty, laughter, and the sweet lies of a perfect life. More years passed, and old Ojugo grew weaker with each passing season. Her sickness worsened until she could no longer sit up on her own. Her bones jutted against her skin. Her eyes were hollow like burnt coals, and her breath came in small painful gasps. Yet, death for some reason had refused to claim her. Each dawn, she would open her trembling eyes and whisper the same words. Nkoli, my child, please, come home. But the wind carried her voice into silence. No one in the village knew where Nkoli was. Some said she had traveled to the city. Some said she was dead, and some, shaking their heads sadly, said, that girl abandoned her mother to die. She is very wicked. The gods will not sleep over this. They will never forgive her. Before long, Nkoli's story spread through the village like fire through grass. People talked at the stream, in the market, and at night by the palm wine joints. That woman, Ojugo, she's dying slowly, all alone. Yeah, and she has a daughter somewhere who doesn't care. Hey, they said that girl ran to the city with a rich man. I don't know how true it is. The story became the favorite gossip of Umuaka. Old men would sigh, women would shake their heads, and children would whisper, so wickedness truly lives in this world. One night, as the moon hung bright over the palm trees, a group of men sat drinking palm wine by the roadside joints. Among them was Mali, Osondo's friend, the same man Osondo had once visited in Umuaka. He had come again to see his old mother. He sat quietly, laughing and listening to the men's jokes, until one of the men changed the topic. If you see that old woman Ojugo, you will pity her. Her daughter Nkoli left her to die. The poor woman can't even walk again. Mali's calabash froze halfway to his lips. Wait, he said slowly. Did you say Nkoli? The man nodded. Yes, Nkoli, the beautiful girl who used to hawk fruits at the village market. She ran off years ago with a rich man from the city and never came back. Mali's heart jumped. He leaned forward. Wait, could it be the same Nkoli he knew? Please, this Nkoli you are talking about, what does she look like? They described her. Her face, her bright eyes, her calm voice, everything matched the Nkoli he knew. His chest tightened. It can't be. That's Osondo's wife. That night, Mali could not sleep. The story refused to leave his mind. Nkoli, Osondo's wife, had told them her parents were dead. She had even cried about it. But if this was true, if her mother was still alive and dying in Umwaka, then Nkoli had built her marriage on lies. He had always known that something was wrong from the time Osondo had told him that she didn't want a traditional marriage in the village, just a white wedding. At least, she should have kinsmen he had tried to point out to Osondo, but he had been so blinded by love that nothing he said mattered. He nodded. Wonders shall never end. The next morning, he went quietly to Ojugo's compound. He found her lying on a mat, barely breathing, her eyes sunken but gentle. "Good morning, Mama," he said softly. She turned her head weakly. "Who are you, my son?" "I am Mali," he said, "a friend of a man called Osondo." "Who is Osondo?" she asked with her shaky voice. "He is Nkoli's husband," Mali replied cautiously. At those words, tears filled Ojugo's eyes. "Osondo," she whispered. "Ha! So my daughter is married. Nkoli, you broke my heart, but I won't curse you. I won't curse you, Nkoli." Mali's chest tightened with pain. There was no doubt now. He knelt beside her, holding her cold hand. "Mama, you mean your daughter's name is Nkoli?" "Yes, Nkoli is Ojugo's daughter," she said faintly. "She left many years ago. I haven't seen her since." Mali swallowed hard. He sat there in silence, staring at the poor woman who looked like she was hanging between life and death. His heart broke. He couldn't imagine that the beautiful, elegant Nkoli in the city had left this fragile woman to waste away alone. When he returned to the city, his spirit was restless. He knew he had to tell Osondo the truth. One quiet evening, Mali called Osondo. "My friend, I need to see you. There is something we need to discuss." "Ah, do you need permission to see me?" Osondo asked jokingly over the phone. Later that evening, Osondo smiled as usual and welcomed his friend warmly. But Mali's face was serious. They sat down in the sitting room of his office and Mali sighed heavily. "Osondo, please don't be angry. But I must ask you, is your wife's name really Nkoli?" "Yes," Osondo said, surprised. "Why do you ask? You know her name already." "And she told you her parents are dead?" "Yes," Osondo nodded slowly. "She's an orphan." Mali's voice trembled. My friend, it is not true. I went to Umwaka. Her mother is alive, very sick, very old, and crying every day for her daughter. The whole village knows. Nkoli abandoned her years ago and ran off with you." The words hit Osondo like thunder. He stared at his friend, shocked, his mouth half open. "Wait, what are you saying?" "I saw her mother myself with my 2 korokoro eyes," Mali said quietly. "She is dying, but not dead." Osondo leaned back, his chest heaving. His world seemed to spin. Nkoli, his gentle, beautiful wife, had lied to him, lied to his heart, lied to their love. He didn't want to believe it. "No," he said finally, shaking his head. "That can't be true. Nkoli isn't like that. Don't you know her? She can't even hurt a fly. She can't do something so cruel." Mali only sighed. "You need to ask her yourself." That night, Osondo drove home in silence. His hands trembled on the steering wheel. His mind was filled with prayers and confusion. "God, please, let this not be true. Let my wife not have such a heart. She can't." When he reached home, Nkoli ran out to meet him as usual, smiling and radiant. "My husband, you are back," she said sweetly. But Osondo's face was cold. His eyes were full of pain. He walked past her and sat down quietly. Nkoli noticed his mood. "My love, is something wrong?" He looked up slowly. His voice was heavy. "Nkoli, I want to ask you something and I want you to tell me the truth." Her smile faded. "What is it? Who is Ojugo?" Nkoli froze. Her breath caught. Her lips trembled. Why are you asking?" she stammered. Osondo stood up, his eyes burning. "Don't ask me questions. Just answer me. Who is Ojugo?" Nkoli swallowed hard, her body trembling. She had never seen her husband this way before. She was my mother," she whispered finally. "Was?" Osondo repeated. "Was? You mean is?" "She's alive, Nkoli. I just heard everything from Mali. Your mother is alive, dying in the village, and you lied that she was dead, that you were an orphan." Nkoli burst into tears, dropping to her knees. "Please, Osondo, please. You don't understand. I can't explain. That woman destroyed my life. She was a curse. Because of her, I lost everything. She fell sick, refused to get better, and made me suffer. I hugged, I begged, I starved because of her. I hated her." Osondo stared at her in disbelief. "You hated your mother?" Nkoli sobbed. "She was bad luck. She held me back. I had dreams, and she ruined all of them. I had to leave her behind, or I would have died poor. She knows how to ruin everything." Osondo shook his head slowly, his heart shattering. He had never felt such disappointment. "Nkoli, you mean you left your own mother to die? And you lied to me that you were an orphan?" Nkoli tried to speak, but words failed her. He turned away from her. His voice was low, trembling with anger and grief. "If you can treat your own mother like this, then I am not safe with you. I cannot live with a woman who has no heart." Nkoli crawled after him, crying, "Please, Osondo, please don't leave me. I did it for us." But he didn't look back. He walked to the door, paused for a moment, then said quietly, "This marriage is over. I would rather live alone than sleep beside cruelty." And with that, he left, leaving Nkoli kneeling on the cold floor, her tears falling onto the tiles like broken pearls. That night, the mansion was silent. Her boutique meant nothing. Her car, her jewelries, her wealth, all meant nothing. For the first time in years, she realized how empty her life truly was. And as she sat there crying, her mother miles away in the small hut of Umwaka coughed weakly and whispered, "Nkoli, my child, please come home before it's too late." The wind carried those words across the night sky straight to the heart of her daughter, the one who had forgotten her mother. For days, Osondo did not return home. Nkoli tried to reach him. She called, texted, begged, but her messages were met with silence. And when he finally replied, it was not the words of love, but with sharp daggers of anger. "You are heartless, Nkoli. You are wicked. I married a beautiful body with a rotten soul." Each message broke her heart a little more. Osondo had instructed his sister to come take their children away. He told her plainly, "I will not live under the same roof with a woman who abandoned her dying mother. I won't return until she's gone from that house." Nkoli was shattered. Her life of comfort collapsed like a sandcastle under the waves. One morning, her sister-in-law Nne came visiting. She had once been Nkoli's closest friend. They had laughed, shopped, and cooked together. But now her eyes were filled with quiet disappointment. She sat beside Nkoli, who was pale from crying, and held her hands gently. Nkoli, listen to me, Nne said softly. You did something evil, something that should not even be heard of. What you did to your mother is not ordinary wickedness. You must go back home and make peace with her. That's your first step to restitution. Nkoli sniffed, her voice trembling. But Nne, what if she doesn't forgive me? What if it's too late? Nne squeezed her hands. You won't know until you try. Your husband needs time and space. But your mother, she needs peace before she dies. Go back to Umuaka and make it right. Nkoli broke down crying. For the first time, she truly felt the weight of everything she had done. The curses, the beatings, the lies, the hatred, the pain. A week later, dressed in simple clothes and stripped of all pride, Nkoli traveled back to Umuaka. The road felt longer than she remembered. Every turn reminded her of something she had thrown away. When she reached the familiar dusty path that led to her old home, her legs trembled. The compound was quiet, the walls were cracked, the air smelled of sickness and herbs. Inside the hut, Ojugo lay still on her mat, her breath weak and her voice faint like a fading song. When Nkoli entered, the old woman's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she saw clearly her daughter standing there with tears running down her face. Mama, Nkoli whispered. Ojugo's lips trembled. Her frail arms stretched forward. Nkoli, my child. Nkoli rushed to her and fell to her knees, holding her hand and crying bitterly. Mama, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. Ojugo's eyes filled with tears as she placed her weak palms on her daughter's cheek. My child, she whispered. You are only reaping what I once sowed. I wanted to tell you the truth before I die. Nkoli blinked through her tears. Mama, what do you mean? The woman sighed deeply. Her voice shook as memories returned. When I was younger, I had a mother like me. She was gentle, kind, and weak. But life happened to her, even though I didn't know it back then. My mother had 9 children, but death took 8 of them. I was her youngest child. After the last one died, my mother couldn't bear it. Sickness caught her. It lasted for years and she was bedridden. I felt my life was ruined because of her. She would poo and pee on the bed. I had to always stay around her and take care of her. I couldn't live like every normal maiden in this kingdom. I looked so miserable that no man could even look at me, all because I was taking care of my mother, who had refused to get better or die. I became resentful and frustrated. I called her useless. I would even beat her up, curse her, and at some point, I abandoned her and stopped caring for her. I blamed her for every bad thing that happened to me. She died heartbroken, and with her last breath, she cursed me. She said these exact words to me: "As you have treated me, so shall your children treat you." I ran away, thinking the curse would die with her, but it had followed me. And when you were born, I thought I had escaped until you began to treat me the same way. Collie's mouth dropped open. Tears flooded her face. Mama, do you mean all these years I was living under a curse? Ojugo nodded slowly. Yes, my daughter. I have reaped what I sowed. And if I die with this pain, the curse will continue to your own children. That is why you must forgive me, as I have forgiven you. I believe this was why the gods had refused to let me die. I never meant to ruin your life. And I'm sure my mother never meant to ruin mine. Life happened to her, but I misunderstood everything. Nkoli broke down, crying so hard. Her whole body shook. Mama, please forgive me. I was blind. I was foolish. I regret all I did to you in the past. I thought I was the only one being hurt. I thought you ruined my life, but it was my own heart that was ruined. Please, forgive me. Ojugo smiled faintly through her tears. It's not your fault. You didn't know what you were doing. I forgive you, my daughter. Let the curse end with me. May you never know the pain I have known. May your children love you till your last breath. They held each other and wept. The sound of their tears filled the small huts, rising like a prayer to the heavens. Outside, the wind blew softly, and the first rain of the season began to fall, washing the dust of years away. Nkoli stayed in Umuaka for weeks, caring for her mother. She refused to leave her side again. When Ojugo's strength began to fade completely, Nkoli carried her back to the city for treatment. She didn't want her to die. The doctors were surprised for a woman so sick and frail. Ojugo began to recover quickly. It was as if something unseen had been lifted off her body, as if the curse had finally lost its power. Ojugo began to eat. She began to laugh softly, and when she smiled at Nkoli, her eyes glowed like a mother seeing her child for the first time. Nkoli couldn't stop crying, not out of sorrow, but out of relief. Mama, she said one evening, holding her hand, I thought I lost you. I thought I'll never be free again, but now I see forgiveness heals deeper than medicine. Ojugo smiled. Yes, my child. When love returns, even curses bow. Weeks later, Ojugo passed away peacefully in her sleep, with a smile on her lips and Nkoli's hand in hers. Nkoli wept. She wished she still had more time to spend with her mother, to show her how much she had changed, to pay her back for those years she had suffered. Weeks passed. Nkoli had tried everything to reach her husband, Osondu. She wanted him to give her the chance to explain all that had happened. She called, she texted, she wrote long messages filled with tears and apologies, but he never replied. Sometimes she saw the double tick on her messages, but no answer came. Other times, she heard from Nne that he had read her text and sighed heavily. He still wasn't ready to talk to her. Yes, he didn't block her. He just shut her out completely, as if her voice no longer deserved an echo. Still, Nkoli waited. Even as she prepared for her mother's funeral, she didn't blame him. She knew she had cursed the storm that tore her life apart. More days passed, then weeks. The funeral drew near. Nkoli focused on her mother's funeral. She was determined to give her mother a befitting farewell. Ojugo was buried in the heart of Umuaka beneath a tall Udala tree, where the breeze always sang softly through the leaves. People from the village came. They cried with her, prayed for her, and told her mother's story with gentle voices. By evening, the mourners had gone home, and the compound was silent. The moon hung low, bathing the fresh mound of earth in silver light. Collie sat by the grave, her wrapper tied loosely around her waist, her face streaked with tears and dust. She placed her hand on the cold soil and whispered, "Mama, I hope you can hear me. I hope you will find peace wherever you are." The night was still. Crickets sang softly. Then from behind her she heard footsteps. She turned slowly. A tall, familiar figure was walking towards her, his white shirt glowing faintly under the moonlight. His steps calm and sure. It was Osondu. Nkoli froze, her breath caught. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. But when he came closer, she saw his eyes, gentle, tired, but full of warmth. "Osondu," she whispered, her voice breaking. He didn't speak at first, he just stood there staring at her. This woman who was once his pride, now kneeling before her mother's grave, humbled and broken. Nkoli rose slowly to her feet, her lips trembled. "Why are you here?" she asked softly. He sighed, his voice deep and calm. "Nne told me everything," he said. "About the curse, about what happened to your mother." He stepped closer, his eyes softening. "I know how powerful a curse like that can be, Nkoli. I know it's a force beyond anyone's control. You did the right thing. You broke it, and I'm sure your mother is resting in peace now." Nkoli covered her mouth, trying to hold back her tears. He looked down at the grave, then back at her. "It's just so sad that I never got to meet her," he said quietly. Nkoli couldn't hold it anymore. She burst into tears. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," she whispered. "I destroyed everything we built." Osondu reached out and took her hands gently. "You were a good wife to me, Nkoli. A good mother to our children. I've had time to think, and I realize we all carry our wounds from somewhere. Yours were deeper than most." She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. He smiled faintly. "I want to give us another chance." Nkoli's breath trembled. She couldn't speak. She could only stare at him as her tears fell freely. Tears of shock, relief, and love. Then Osondu pulled her into his arms. For a long moment, they held each other tightly, two broken souls finding warmth again after a long, cold season. Their lips met, slow and tender, sealed with passion, love, and forgiveness. Above them, the moon glowed brighter, casting light over Ojugo's grave, as if the heavens themselves were smiling. And for the first time, after so many years, Nkoli's heart was at peace. Hey besties, we've come to the end of the story, and I hope you enjoyed it and learned one or two lessons from it. I would love you to share your lessons and your thoughts in the comments section. And if you enjoy our stories and you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please do not skip this video without hitting on the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so that you get notified whenever we post new stories. Thank you for all your love and support. Even your encouragement, they mean so much to me, and thank you to you all who share my videos and encourage others to like my videos. I love you all. Right now I have to go, and see you in our next story. Bye.